Hi everybody, it's Thomas here from thomasfitzgeraldphotography.com. Today I'm going to do a video where I am taking some photos that I shot on my Sony A6000 using adapted lenses, and I'm going to bring them into Capture One, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you need to know when you're shooting with adapted lenses. So just a few tips and tricks. I'm going to have another video up where I actually shot some video while shooting this, so you can see what I did when I was shooting with the adapted lenses. I used two lenses in this shoot, a Nikon 105mm macro lens and a Canon 17-40 f4L. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into Capture One and I'm going to take you right through the shoot, from import to processing the images, and along the way I will show you some of the tricks and things that you might need to know along the way. So let's get going and dive right into it. Okay, so here we are in Capture One and I have the import images window open. So and the right source is already loaded. So what I want to do is just set my destination first. So I don't want to put it in the catalog. So I'm going to put it on a drive, and let's see if we have room somewhere. I'm just going to put it in here. Okay, I don't want a subfolder, that's all fine. I'm not going to rename anything. Now, here's a little trick for you straight up. If you want to apply a preset on import, you can actually apply multiple presets on import. And now I'm talking about presets and not styles. So if you're coming from Lightroom, in Capture One terminology, styles are more kind of like what Lightroom presets are, whereas in Capture One, presets are actually settings for individual adjustments. So for example, you can have sharpening presets or noise reduction presets. And in this case, I want to apply a sharpening preset and a noise reduction preset. So I go down here to my adjustments, and even though it says styles, you can apply presets here as well. So if I go in here, the first thing I want to do is make sure stack styles is turned on. And then I go down to user presets. And first of all, we want sharpening, and I'm going to go with Sony medium. Okay, and then I want to add another one. So again, go into the same spot, user presets. And in this case I'm going to go noise reduction, and I'm going to go smooth Sony. Now I have these already set up, so if you had your own, you can do them in here too. So I'm just going to import everything, and then we'll go through it a bit later as to what everything is. Okay, so I'm going to set these importing. Okay, so while these are importing, you can see what Capture One is doing. So this is the status window. If you close that, you can get it back by clicking on this. It says imported, and this is the number of images that are importing, and then this is the previews that are being generated. So if we click on an image, we can see it as it's coming in. This was taken with the A6000 and a Nikon 105mm lens, so we're manual focusing all this, and it's not bad. I see the quality is pretty good, and this was an old lens. It's probably 20 plus years old, maybe even older than that. You can see we're getting a little bit of fringing around here, but it's not actually that bad. While the rest of these are importing, let me just show you a few things with this. First of all, how I have my files set up for the A6000. So if I go up to the color tab, you can see I have a default to film high contrast. Okay, and how you set this as your default is you go in here and go save as default. Okay, and secondly, I have a very slight curve on it because I just find that the images are a bit flat as they are. But that's it. And then we have the sharpening presets and the noise reduction presets that I applied earlier. So basically for my sharpening, I have it set to 100, and I have the threshold set to 0, and I've turned the halo suppression up because I find that just cleans the edges ever so slightly. Okay, so while we're here, let's just quickly look at this. So I'll see if I can get rid of these fringing here. It's not actually that noticeable, so it's not a huge deal. The chromatic aberration on this lens is actually not bad, but let me just show you what you would need to do. So you turn that on, okay, and let that analyze. Okay, and that didn't really do anything, but however you have your purple fringing down here, so I turn that up full. And it actually gets rid of a bit of it. It's not a huge amount, but then, like I said, it's not actually that noticeable, so I'm not going to worry about it that much. What I can do, I don't know if this lens is profiled or not. It might not be because it's an older lens. But let me have a look. No, it's too old. Yeah, no, it's a very old lens, so it's not going to be profiled. But anyway, we'll get back to that in a minute. So let's see how our progress is going. We're still importing. Okay, well, let me just look down through some of these while they're importing. As you can see, the quality is pretty good using adapted lenses with the A6000. It actually works really well. This is actually a good lens, so sometimes it is easy to miss focus, as you can see here. It's not bang sharp. That one's a bit better. That's a pretty good shot, so we'll just mark that 5 stars. One of the things to note as well is when you're shooting with adapted lenses, depending on the lens, it can actually cause the color to shift a bit. It's kind of hard to say what's. I think this is actually okay, but let me just adjust the exposure slightly. As you can see, it's a bit dark. Keep an eye on the histogram while we're doing that. And then another problem here now is the blacks have gone too grey, so there's a couple of ways we can adjust that. The simplest is just to grab the levels here and bring that up, and we put our blacks back to black. Again, this was manual focus and using focus peaking. Okay, and you can see I managed to get it bang on, which is not bad, all things considered. Okay, so let me just scroll down through a few more of these. I can see here in this shot, I missed focus. In the other video that I've done on this, I talk a bit about using focus peaking and some of the tricks for it. Occasionally it can miss. In shots like this, it's actually quite hard to use, and you really need to use the zoom function, because otherwise you're just not going to get it. Again, some of these came out a bit dark as well, but that's easily fixed. That's not a great shot. Okay, so kind of the bulk of these that I wanted to talk about were the flower shots, which I'm going to get to in a second. Yeah, that's not bad as well. Again, there's very little chromatic aberration on these. There's a little bit up here, but we can fix that with the purple fringing. So again, if I go back over here and turn up purple fringing, it gets rid of some of it. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It's a little better, but we need to turn on chromatic aberration as well, see if that gets rid of some. The one downside of Capture One is it doesn't have some of the advanced features that Lightroom has for removing larger chromatic aberration, which is a pity, because that function in Lightroom is actually pretty good. Yeah, it's not brilliant. It's not making a huge difference. It is getting rid. You can see it over here. It's getting rid of it. But that's not too bad anyway. It's not actually that noticeable. Okay, so that's not a great shot. This guy's kind of ruining it. So anyway, yeah, I shot a lot of flowers with the macro lens, so this is kind of what I was mainly interested in. Okay, you can see we managed to nail the focus pretty well on these. We like that shot, so we'll mark that. There's not actually a lot to do with these. I can increase the clarity a bit if I want to bring up some of the sharpening and maybe a little bit of a vignette just to focus the attention a bit. See, normally what I would do is I would probably go through the whole shoot and pick my picks, but for the purpose of this, just to save time, so we're not wasting too much time, I'm going to go through them while we're actually looking at them. Okay, that's okay. It kind of focuses a bit off on that. Okay, we like this shot. So again, we're a little bit dark. One of the things I find is sometimes when you're shooting with adapted lenses, it throws the meter off. It depends on your adapter and it depends on the lens. And this particular Nikon lens has a weird thing where it's 2.8, but depending on the focus, it actually drops down. So that makes it a bit it throws the metering off in the camera, so you kind of have to keep an eye on it. If you're within a stop or two, it's not too bad. Okay, so again, we've got some aberration going on here, so let me just go over and turn that on and turn up purple fringing. Again, it helps a little bit. It's not doing a huge amount to it, but yeah, it will do. In this case, we'll try adding some structure to this, and just a little bit. We don't too much, and again, a little bit of a vignette, maybe some contrast. Like I said, I don't really need to do much to these. They're actually pretty good as it is. Again, mark is 5 stars. So I'm just going to go down to these quickly, and we'll pick a few to work on. Nice shots, they're a bit dark. Okay, this one turned out pretty well. Okay, as you can see, we've got our focus fairly accurate here, and again, not much to do to this. Ever so slight bit of fringing, so we'll turn this on. Not that it makes a huge difference, but of course, every little helps. A little bit of clarity. And a little bit of structure. See if we can bring up some of the detail of the flowers here. We don't want to go too much because we don't want to bring up too much in the background. But yeah, that's pretty good. And again, a little bit of vignette maybe. A little bit of contrast. Maybe the exposure up ever so slightly. Okay, again, that's just another shot of that. And we have some flowers. Yep. Pretty good. It's a little dark again. I seem to have this problem with a lot of these. They didn't actually look that dark in the camera, so bring this up. That's way underexposed, but it actually recovers pretty well, so it's not a huge deal. And you can see a little insect there. The only problem is you do increase the noise, so ideally I should have got it in camera, but yeah, that's not bad. Again, another little insect. That macro lens is pretty good for 20 plus 30-year-old lens. Okay, again, I'm just going to skim through these because otherwise we'd be here all day. These shots, I like these because they're kind of a nice textury pattern. Again, these are all pretty cool. And this is a cool shot too. I think there's a very little bit of camera shake going on here. It's not too bad. Okay, again. I think the biggest problem with these is that a lot of them are underexposed, so it's not a huge deal to fix them. I just like adding a little bit of vignette as well. Okay. Scroll down a bit more. These are pretty cool too. Again, underexposed. Okay, I'm just going to skip through these flower shots because, let's face it, they're a bit boring. Again, we have some fringing quite bad here, so Yeah, the problem with this is that's not going to fix that. You have two options here. You could basically ignore it. Or we can do a quick fix on this. So I'm going to go over to the layers panel. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to select the brush, and then I want a smaller brush size. To bring this up, by the way, if you don't know, you just right click. Okay, and then I want to go down to the color editor. Go to basic, advanced, and we need to try and pick the purple, which is easier said than done, but that should do it. Saturation down. You might need to of course, sure, I haven't actually brushed it, so that's not going to do anything. I'll just brush around the purple areas. I need to bring this into the red a bit. Okay, so we don't want to go too far into the yellow, but as you can see, that's got rid of the purple fringing. Now, because there's so much green in the background, I'm not going to be able to get rid of that. But it's not bad. So that's how you get rid of fringing if you have a, well, depending on the image. It's not really practical all the time, but that was quite jarring there, so we'll go with that. So let's just go back here, and it's still a bit underexposed. The contrast is a bit high, so we'll just drop that down as well. Okay, moving on. Let's see what else we got. I am actually surprised by how underexposed some of these came out. Okay, that's pretty nice. I find that's one of the things about mirrorless cameras. Sometimes it can actually trick you into thinking your images are at a different exposure than they are, especially if you're looking through the viewfinder and your viewfinder brightness is too bright. So you kind of have to keep an eye on the histogram, which is obviously something I didn't do as well as I should have. Also, this wouldn't be as bad with a normal lens. It's because it was an adapted lens, it tricks the meter into thinking the exposure is correct. It only happens with certain lenses. Like I said, this particular lens had that issue. But still, they're not bad. The images are coming out okay. I'm quite happy with these. Okay, so at some point I switched to a Canon lens. Okay, so I think these were with, yes, these were with the Canon F4L 17-40 wide angle lens. Again, quality is not bad. So what we can do is this should be profiled, so we can tell that this was this lens. So if I go in here and it's the 17-40 F4L, okay, and if we want, we can adjust the distortion for this lens. So we need to set that to 100. And it's automatically got the aberration on this because it knows what the lens is. Okay, so in order to get this onto the rest of the images that I shot with this lens, actually let me find all the images. I'm pretty sure it started around here. Okay, so I'm going to select these. What you need to do is basically select all your images. But you need to have this one as the primary selected image. So I'm going to select them all. Okay, that's deselected those. I'm just going to hold down the command key and just reselect these ones. Because when I held down shift, it deselected them. I'm not sure about this shot. I'm going to leave that off because I'm not 100% certain I'm on that one. Okay, so what you do is once you have them selected, and make sure that the one that you have you've made your changes to. Okay, and then you go up here to this. So this little button here. And you click on that. Okay, and that tells you everything you want to apply, and then just hit apply, and that will now apply to all the other images. It's a bit of a convoluted way of working in this, but it does actually work. So there's a potential downfall with this, so I probably shouldn't be doing this. Okay, so I'm going to deselect these, so it's Command Shift A, deselect. Now I just want to see. Oh, that's okay. So now that we've done that, we can go through some of these, and yep, they're all looking pretty good. And there's very little aberration going on here, so that actually is not bad. Again, we still have the problem of underexposure. It's not quite as bad as this, but I think I was kind of trying to keep the clouds from overexposing when I shot these, so I'll just bring that up a bit. I'll bring that down. It's not too bad. So if we look up here, because this lens is profiled, it's correcting the aberration, I'm pretty sure. So if I turn this off, yeah, you can see. So that's the advantage of having a lens that's been profiled already. You'll get much better fixes on it. So it's the downside of using old lenses. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these some more. Again, I'm just quickly browsing through these. I'm not going to go through all the images because we'd be here all day. I did actually shoot quite a bit. Okay, this is a nice shot again. It's a bit dark, so we'll brighten it up. Contrast. And by the way, the reason I keep zooming in is Capture One is a bit aggressive with its anti-aliasing when it's showing images, so I always like to check things at 1:1 just because it's the only way to really be sure as to what exactly it's doing. Also, sometimes it doesn't show certain things, like purple fringing is not showed zoom out, it's not rendered properly, so it's the only way to see it is to zoom in. Okay. And some of these shots are a bit dark, but we'll just play around with them for a minute. I'm not going to do too much to it. Bring up the clarity a bit here. It was quite a bright day too, so the light was quite harsh, so there's only so much I can do with this. That's not bad. Okay, so if I go further down here, I started to shoot some kind of street type stuff as well, so I'm curious to see how these came out. I'm getting a little dark. One of the things I will note about this is as well, this is nothing to do with Capture One, but when you're using the A6000 with adapted lens, it looks like a different camera. So it kind of goes to show you that the difference a good lens can make. I'm sure if you're using FE lenses on it, it's probably you get the same kind of results, but it also goes to show you that Sony's lenses aren't particularly great. But that's a side point. Again, in the other video I have all this shot. I had a GoPro mounted on the camera, so you can see what I was doing when I was shooting these. Okay, that's not bad. Another thing too that you might find interesting is, and this is a handy little feature, Capture One. Some people say, oh, I don't like the colours of Sony and I prefer Canon colours or whatever. You can actually change the profile, and you can select it from anything. So I can, if I want to, for example, go in here and select, say, the 5DS. It doesn't make a huge difference, but like if I undo that, okay, it doesn't make a huge difference. You can just see it's ever so slightly changing some of the colors. It's not particularly a big difference, but you can play around with different color profiles. For example, I could go to Fuji, I could go down here, and I could use some of the Fuji color profiles. I have another video how to get these. This just takes a second because it has to load them. Or crash. For example, there's ProVia, ProNeg, Classic Chrome, Acros, Astia. I can even use Velvia. Again, these are not for the right camera, so you're not going to get the exact same results. It's not like you're going to magically get the different colors, but it just gives you an idea what you can do. So again, that's another little trick if you don't know that you can do that already. So I'm just going to undo that. Okay, let's just have a look at a few more of these. Again, I was manually focusing with all these. What I had done on these shots, I had stepped down to F10, I think, and just kind of, I was trying to do a degree of zone focusing, which was difficult enough, but and in some cases I would just adjust it for the shot. I was using focus peaking for all these. I don't think I zoomed in much of the time, so, but you can see how the results came out. It's not bad. So again, it was quite a contrasty day, so there's only so much I can do with this, but it's not bad. Again, as you can see, the focus is bang on. So yeah, we like that shot, and I like this shot as well. As you can see, you've got some good dynamic range here as well, so we could actually bring that up. We like the contrast though. If I wanted to brighten his face up, I can do that easy enough with by adding a layer in. So again, we go for the layer. I've zoomed in just to make it a bit easier. Brush, you just brush on there, and then bring up the shadows. And as you can see, problem solved. Okay, so let's just look at a few more. Okay, so here's another thing I'm going to show you how to do. So this isn't a bad shot, but the perspective has kind of made it a bit odd. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let me just adjust the colors and the contrast and everything. Get it so looking kind of nice. Okay, so one of the things I really like with Capture One is the perspective correction tool. It's kind of like upright in Photoshop, except it's much easier to use. So I'm going to straighten the verticals in this image to give it a kind of almost a tilt shift kind of look. Not from the kind of narrow depth of field that you're used to seeing for tilt shift images, but more like it was shot with corrected verticals. So this is easy to do. All you do is grab the handles and get it so that you have a straight line. It's going to be a little trickier over here because I don't have a straight line. We can use the edge here. Okay, so you just line up your lines, and then once you do that, you just click apply, and there you go, straighten verticals. And then you switch back to the hand tool to get rid of the crop. As you can see, that's not bad. Get a bit more. Okay, so we like that. Again, that was way out of focus. I think I hit off the focus ring there. Didn't quite work. That's a pretty good shot. Okay. We like that. So we'll give it 5 stars. shadows. Sometimes it's nice just to leave the shadows black, and sometimes what you need to do when you're adjusting shadows is, if you bring them up too much, everything, the blacks go to grey, so then you need to bring the blacks down. So you can either do this like I showed you earlier, or another way is to go to the color balance tool and use the shadow slider and bring the blacks down, which also work. Okay, and again we'll add some clarity. By the way, if you haven't played around with the clarity methods, they actually are quite different, some of them, so be sure to actually try them and get used to what does what. Actually, punch is actually quite nice because it enhances the colours a little bit as well. So again, just a few more shots here. That's pretty good. Okay. And just, these aren't particularly interesting, but anyway. So if I bring this up, we can see that's all burnt out, but we can fix that. Okay. Again, that's not. I can also try some presets on this, or styles to use the proper terminology. So this is the new styles layout in 10.1. So I'm going to go to user styles, and I'll try one of my silver look styles. So let's just give it a black and white. Let's go with that. That's actually not bad. We just need to adjust brightness maybe. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. It turns out that there's actually not that much you need to do after all. It depends on the lens. The main thing to do is, if you're using adapted lenses and you have there is a profile for the lens, is to set the profile. So again, to do that, you go into the lens correction panel and just pick the profile. If you don't have a profile for it, your results aren't going to be as great, unfortunately, but other than that, it works pretty well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Don't forget, I will have another video where I show you how I actually shot some of these, and that will be up shortly. So I hope this has been informative, and check out some of my other YouTube videos. If you like this, please like this video because it helps other people find it, and subscribe to my channel. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed this.